Well, here we are in God Kings after the dramatic finish on the ninth turn. Well, I think no matter what, this is going to be a little bit of a letdown, having seen that possibility at the very end. But maybe, maybe this will be an exciting turn as well. Although that was just a moment of excitement in terms of, damn, this could have ended here. Yeah, it's not that bad. All right, so I calculated out the points for what the different armies are going to produce. And we got 8 and 7, 7 and 7 tribute wood here. 5 and 3, we see the fall. Assyria's just never gotten the grasp. But then over here with the Hatti, they're going to have 11 and 8. And their hope is to hold most of this territory, maybe win a couple key battles, and be able, maybe actually extend the territory, because they have the advantage on Egypt, and maybe be able to win the game that way. Other players, well, what do they care? To tell you the truth, the Babylonians are just angry at the Assyrians, and they want to take them out. And the Assyrians are not too terribly unhappy with trying to defend what they can and maybe come in second that way if Egypt can win. Neither one feels they have a chance. The Hatti, on the other hand, have a chance. The only question here is, do the Assyrians feel like they can take a stab at the Hatti who took Mitanni? Now, Mitanni was not taken by any kind of deceit or anything. It was the Assyrians who started that war, and they probably don't have a great complaint. But sometimes these kind of things molder on throughout the game, and it's only been a couple of turns, where they can spark back up and want to regain their territory. We'll see. So, here on the 10th and final turn, started things off on the first round. The Hatti slid down and back up, laying a siege. They failed. The Egyptians did a major or a minor campaign and slid up and down. And now we get to check a siege of Kadesh, which I haven't rolled for yet. There's a -1 on the die roll here, and that'll be not completed yet as well. On to the tailing end. And for the trailing half, the battle for dominance begins right away with the Babylonians sliding up, grabbing Mari, which was ungarrisoned, and striking here. They were driven back, however. They didn't win the chariot duel. In fact, the Assyrians got a chariot attack off. And then they played a chaos of war to cancel out the Assyrian advantages, but rolled so much more poorly. Now here still we see the losses are not that ridiculous a scale. I mean, you get the most varied result that you almost can get beyond what you can get with really great leadership or whatever. But we're facing a 13 to a 20, and that just does not feel like a single battle. How does it feel with a campaign? Well, in a campaign, these armies would have been destroyed multiple times, so I'm just not sure what they represent and why it takes so long to move them around. Anyway, that's it for this round, and onward. Lied I did about that being the end of the turn. The Assyrians got to do a counter move, and they moved down, grabbed Tutul, and up into Mari to attack. And here, the Babylonians played 2 cards, a +1 and a -1. Terrain advantage canceled out the leadership advantage. They had 1 more division. They ended up getting a +2 to their die roll, -1 to the Assyrian, the -1 forced by the demonic invocations. A 20 to 11 trade-off. This is their victory this time. And they have knocked the Assyrians back. Now, here's the real problem. The Assyrian army is really kind of teetering here. Then again, so is the Babylonian one. The Babylonian one was damaged at the beginning of this. The Assyrian one was in pretty good shape, but it's smaller. So we're seeing kind of one side or the other is going to walk out of this okay, I guess. But one side's just going to be demolished by it. Which is fine. What do the Assyrians do if they win? Well, they can strip points from the Babylonians. They can also move down and grab things like Sumer or Elam. But they're not going to have a lot of time for any of this. Alright, well, let's see where it all takes us going into round 2 finally for real. So here in the second round, not a lot changed. The Hatti failed in their siege again at Carchemish. However, Kadash fell to the Egyptians. They've taken it. They're ready to move on, maybe take some more of the Babylonian territory, especially up here in Ugarit. They got to be careful of the Hatti. In fact, they may want to fight the Hatti, but here's the problem: if they lose, the extra points might be enough for the automatic victory. So they're probably best off avoiding a battle with the Hatti if they can, in which case they may want to head this way or fall back. The danger, though, is the Hatti were at 17 base. If they get this, that puts them up to 20. So that fight may have to happen anyway. Then down here, well, the people who are ignoring that, the struggle for the victory, we had the Babylonians slide around and pick up a location. Actually, we're going to come this way. And then come back around and attack. And they lost the attack. In this case, the advantages were all in favor of the Assyrians, really. They had a 2-point swing on the dice, on the bonuses. They also got a big roll. They ended up doing 20 to 17. They get a victory point. The two armies, though, are really, really hosed. Right now, the Assyrian army is a little weaker. Just numerically, it doesn't have the strength to absorb the losses. But the Kassites have lost all their chariots now as well, so they're not really able to get that extra attack in, which they got this time. Alright, well, we'll see what the Assyrians do, but I think they have to kind of launch that attack against attack, try to defeat the Babylonians decisively enough that they can grab Mari and then go back into Carchemish or whatever. And the net effect there was again an Assyrian loss. The attacker, slight disadvantage, 1 point here. They actually rolled the same. That 1 point difference would be the only difference, but in both cases did 11 points. Their strength has gotten down to that 12 to 15 range. The Assyrians, though, are down to just 2 pieces now. They can't even really do anything with that. The Babylonians, on the other hand, have enough that they can lay sieges and the like, but also are very, very weak. And, it's just sort of a race to the bottom at this point. That's the end of the second round, I think, for real this time. On to the third. And in this third round, the Hatti continue to fail. The Egyptians have slid up, gathered their army to Emar, gained it. Indeed, I looked at the points, and if the Hatti take this, they get an auto victory. So the Egyptians have to stop them and probably have to keep pushing against them after they do. They're less worried. Their point advantage is quite great. And right now, the Assyrians were destroyed here completely, which puts the Babylonians as the other side, which is kind of worrisome. I might want to grab some of these just to prevent the Babylonians from getting a chance at winning. They don't have much of an army, but they do still have 3 units, which means they can siege. The Assyrians, however, lost their entire army. Got a roll, finally got their heir, who's a slightly better leader, but it's not going to make much difference. But then played mercenaries arrive, and they have 2 mercenary units, which means they can still challenge and fight. Not well, but they might be able to take the Babylonians down to the point where they can no longer siege. Alright, well, that's the end of 3 and on to the 4th. Well, the Egyptians launched their final attack into Carchemish. This is round 4 towards the beginning. It finally fell, and the Egyptians are coming forward to make their attack. And both sides have some combat cards to handle this, in a sense. The Egyptians played Pest and Pestilence and caused actually quite severe attrition. We see 2 whole divisions knocked to reduce status, and a bunch of the chariots as well. It was really amazing at first because all I could roll were 5s and 6s. Because it's a big army, 5s and 6s are sufficient. On the other hand, the Egyptians got Illness of a God played against them. This means that their leader, with his big 3 combat rating, is a 0 for the round. And that's going to be a major swing in the chances of victory here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 6, 7. So this battle is going to really be decided by a die roll for the most part, except for this. And right now, this isn't the die roll. This is to see whether or not a chariot charge succeeds. At this point, there's 2 plus 1 for increase, so it is going to happen. There's going to be a chariot charge. I'll come back after the whole battle. We've seen the mechanics of the game already in play. Well, the Egyptians were knocked back 19 to 22. Not too surprising given the card plays made. They still have a heavy army, which is to say good enough to be on the top chart no matter what. Probably for a couple rounds still. But they've given a victory point because of that loss. They can only give 3 of these up. Yeah, there's only 2 rounds. You know, this is the first of the last 2. The biggie here is the Egyptians actually don't have to keep attacking. They've bottled things up. They went for the attack because they thought they had the advantage. They don't have to keep doing it. The Hatti have to do something to trigger a victory at this point. And they don't have that yet. They either have to blast their way through, and they will get 2 more shots. No, they will only get 1 more shot next turn. So they have to figure out some way to gain that extra victory point. They can get 1 more if they get a victory, but that's not enough. So they need 2 more. And it's not clear how they can get that. There's 2 cities here that they'd have to siege. They have a card that would allow them to pretty much guarantee one of them, the betrayal. They have the Oriental Cruelty, which would allow them to take a swath of territories. They could actually grab most of Amaru, but not all of it. So they're in this position where maybe the only thing they can do to win is to attack this location, win, and convert the province. Interesting situation. Alright, on to the tailing, guys. And, well, our Babylonians used their last card on a failed siege. The Assyrians, well, they can go converting territories, but they can't take a defended city. Actually, Mary's not defended. Ooh. 1, 2. They're not going to play here. I was going to say they were kind of a dicky spoiler walking through here and just capturing it, but the actuality, 1, 2, 3, 4 will move here. They're going to be able to take another province, and they want to do that. And they don't want to leave mercenaries behind. They want to do that rather than bone the Hatti. The Hatti wouldn't really be screwed. They could have moved back here, picked that up, and come down for an attack or whatever. So it really wasn't even affecting them, but it was kind of an annoyance move. All right, we're on to the 5th and final, and I'm just going to finish up here and do a brief wrap. Well, the Hatti come back up, and the game is coming down to a single die roll here. 1 proviso. See, my worry is what happens if the Egyptians retreat. They can come up and steal a point. But a point's not enough because there are victories from battle. So as long as the Hatti can gain this battle, they'll win. Now this battle is going to be a die roll. It's going to be the final battle die because they're both sitting there still pretty big. 27, 30, well over 40 here. What does he have? Somewhat smaller. Now again, notice the bigger units the Hatti have for whatever reason. 6, 8, 14, 20, 26, 30, 42. Again, max size. Even if the chariot charges come through, they're still going to be max size, I think. Alright, let's see what happens, and I'll come back in a moment. But the Egyptians have a card in their hand, Wisdom of Horus here, that allows them to cancel the chariot charge if the Hatti get it off. They can try their own still. So this looks like it's an Egyptian victory. The Egyptians had all the advantages here. 1 for the local populace, 1 for the leadership, and 1 for more divisions. So they had the big advantages anyway, and they ended up outrolling as well. It's going to be a 21 to 13 battle. The Hatti have failed in sort of a last chance bid at trying to take this. They had some nice cards that I thought would help them, but the rest were just playing out. I'm pretty sure the Egyptians are going to win, but you know, whatever. Maybe the Babylonians. Now they're out of cards. The Assyrians can't do anything. So yeah, it's an Egyptian game here. I'll just absorb the casualties and continue playing. And on the Egyptians' turn, they turn around from this battle and march down here into Mary, preventing the Assyrians from getting control of this territory. Assyrians can't siege anything, so there's not much they can actually do. I think they're stymied here. They don't have enough troops that they could defeat the Egyptian army up here. They have 2 mercenaries under their unit. I think they can just probably pass. They could come 1, 2, 3, 4 and capture something, or 1, 2 and risk things, but there's just nothing they can do. So this is it, and I'm going to count the victory points and come back. Okay, so let's look at these. To begin with, we have our good friends the Hatti, and they've gotten 18, not even the 19 of last time. 17 for the provinces they held, along with last time, as well as 1 for the victory point. Now, what does that do? 18. We'll bring them up to 100 for 8, and then the 10, bring them up to 110. That's pretty respectable given how far behind they were kind of lagging at one point. Alright, let's look at the next one. Well, the Assyrians, they haven't been doing too well, and they've only scored 6 points. And they end up at 100 as well. And they're actually, Hatti were at 110. The Assyrians only made it up to 100. Let's see about the Babylonians. They only pulled 8 points with all that fighting. And they're up to 106. Okay. Yeah, but now our Egyptians, who were already at 116, pull another 11. So they go up to 127. And they easily won the game. The only risk here was that final, could the Hatti be able to turn the tide by those extra couple of points? And it almost happened last turn by accident, without anybody even realizing it. It's just something that I didn't keep in mind as any of the players, and I could see it being a way to backdoor into victory quite often if you're in that last position, that everybody's kind of not paying much attention to harming you. They're willing to give you a lot of good, they're just willing to leave you alone and let you expand. The things that you take from other people, well, they don't become the first things taken back because you're so far behind. Although it didn't turn out to be so far behind, they ended up scoring 2nd place as well as having a shot at winning directly. Okay, but outside of that, they did look very far behind before the last couple of turns, and they were able to turn it around. There's also a little bit of a asymmetrical situation around the leaders. Not that terribly, I think, helped them. It's hard to tell without the leaders spread out, but you can see at certain times of the game, one player has better leaders than another. Outside of that, the game's pretty much balanced. And of course, there's the card play, etc. that you get. I'll come back with a review of this, based on this one playing, really. But, alright, up this goes.